Today, Canada and the United States are announcing a reciprocal arrangement where we will now be returning irregular migrants who attempt to cross anywhere at the Canada-US border.
So that was a big announcement that got all the media attention. Wow, Trudeau must be serious about the virus. He gave up his beloved Roxham Road illegal crossing. I guess he really is putting our country first. That's odd. Except look at this. Look at this. Look at this. This was just sneaked through last night. Not in a press conference, but through a cabinet order posted on the internet. It's called an order in council. 2 massive new exemptions to the quarantine laws. You and I have to shelter in place, really, form a house arrest. No going to restaurants, no going to the mall, no theaters, no schools, no play dates for the kids, no non-elective surgeries at hospitals, no non-emergency court hearings. We're all being treated like high school kids with a curfew, but in the daytime too. But illegal immigrants with a fever and a cough are literally and specifically and legally exempted from the ban. I know you don't believe me. I could scarcely believe it myself, so let me prove it to you by showing you. This is straight from the federal government's website for orders in council. In the United States, these would be called executive orders from the White House. Here they're called orders in council. They're just that, orders. Not laws passed after a debate by Parliament, but an immediate fiat. It's how Trudeau wants to run the country for everything. Just order it to be so, and it's so. No debate, no consulting with the public, no votes, no input of any sort from the opposition. Just write it, and it's the way. He proposed to give himself this power for everything until the end of 2021, but even his media bailout journalists were shocked by that. So here's Order in Council number 185, issued yesterday. Let me read it to you, or at least some of it to you. Let me start with the part that keeps out people with the virus. Let me read it. Whereas the Governor in Council is of the opinion that, based on the declaration of a pandemic by the World Health Organization, there is an outbreak of a communicable disease, namely coronavirus disease 2019, in the majority of foreign countries. The introduction or spread of the disease would pose an imminent and severe risk to public health in Canada. The entry of persons into Canada who have recently been in a foreign country may introduce or contribute to the spread of the disease in Canada, and no reasonable alternatives to prevent the introduction or spread of the disease are available. Therefore, Her Excellency, the Governor-General in Council, on the recommendation of the Minister of Health, pursuant to Section 58 of the Quarantine Act, makes the annexed Minimizing the Risk of Exposure to COVID-19 in Canada order prohibition of entry into Canada from the United States. Okay, that's a mouthful, but I think it's pretty clear. That's the why we're doing it. And here's the what we're doing. Let me read some more. Prohibition, signs and symptoms. Section 2.1, a foreign national is prohibited from entering Canada from the United States if they exhibit the following signs and symptoms: a fever and cough, or a fever and breathing difficulties. Okay, great, pretty simple, right? So Section 2, subsection 1 says, you can't come into Canada from the United States if you have those symptoms. I think that makes sense. But then look at this. Look at the exemptions from that ban. Non-application, certain persons. Subsection 1, which I just read to you, does not apply to persons referred to in subsection 5.2 who seek to enter Canada from the United States for the purpose of making a claim for refugee protection. Huh? Didn't they just announce with great fanfare that they were shutting down Roxham Road? That in fact they didn't have the ability to treat and quarantine all the virus cases in the world who would just simply show up at Roxham Road and ask for free healthcare and jump to the front of the queue and be shipped by special ambulance probably to hospitals in Montreal or Toronto. I mean, isn't it obvious? I mean, it was bizarre and foolish and self-harming that Trudeau shipped 16 tons of virus masks and other protective gear to China just last month, giving them our whole national stockpile for free. That was insane and dangerous, but I guess you could say Trudeau was still sleeping in February. But now that we're all in lockdown mode, now that even Peter Pan himself has realized that things are in trouble, and he himself is self-isolating, though bizarrely he won't take the virus test, which tells me he just wants the sympathy and he just wants to hang out at home and not really go into work. I mean, why won't he take the test? Why did his wife Sophie take the test but not him? Boris Johnson of the UK took the test. Donald Trump took the test. Trudeau's faking it. But imagine him now saying Foreigners can't come into Canada with the fever and the cough unless they specifically say they're claiming refugee status. And in that case, come on in, guys, and go to the front of our healthcare line, guys. But you and me, Canadian citizens, we stay in our homes. We don't go to the hospital until we're at the edge of death because they won't let us in otherwise. And by the way, lose your jobs while you're at it. That's an excerpt from my daily show, The Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.